Okay, people, if you're too weak to go into very heavy topics, I suggest maybe you skedaddle on out of here because we're going to be talking about the latest 5 or 6 chapters of My Hero Academia from 350 all the way to the latest chapter as of the recording of this video, 356. And we're going to get heavy. We're going to go with the topics that really mean something in what's happening in the story now. Obviously, there's a lot of grandiose battles and whatnot, but one of the main central points I feel like the story continues to revert back to, in particular for the whole Todoroki, tragic family saga, is the word, or I guess words, self-hatred. You're probably like, yo, whoa, Fornev, you're getting a little deep here, fam. We're not going to be talking. We're talking about some self-hatred because I feel like that's one of the big core elements of what plagues the Todoroki family, but in particular, Endeavor. Let's talk about it.
No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done.
Okay, people, before we get started, please hit that subscribe button and that bell to get all notifications. That way you're notified whenever we drop one of these. We're getting back into the swing of things, talking about some manga greatness, or whatever you want to call it, depending on how you feel about the manga right now. Okay, don't hurt me, but subscribe before you hurt me if you're gonna hurt me. Okay, people, it feels like it's been ages, at the very least a couple months, since I've last spoke about the My Hero Academia manga, but we gotta talk about what's been happening lately between the battle of Shoto versus Dabi being wrapped up, as well as Endeavor right now throwing down against All For One with Hawks, Jiro, and Tokoyami. It's been a real chaotic mess. And All For, if I gotta say, there's definitely been something that I don't want to harp on necessarily, but we gotta discuss the fact that it feels like whatever change happened recently with My Hero Academia, even the way the beats go for certain elements have been completely swapped. And what I mean by that is the battle between Todoroki or Shoto versus Dabi, one of the main aspects that I noticed was that it really felt like it was more so being dialogue heavy, and because of the war that we previously had, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, it feels like the stakes and the way everything is done doesn't feel like it measures up, because remember, we started off the previous war with the hospital exploding and heroes dropping left and right and the villains taking over, so automatically you're gonna kind of not have that same level of tension when it's just, Shoto versus Dabi and they're standing side by side. I think the family element, the self-hatred element, is one of the big key elements that kind of moved that fight along and ultimately made it a little bit more interesting than a typical battle. But nevertheless, it did lack a little bit of that intensity of, high stakes of oh my god, especially considering Dabi's been built up for a long time. Not to necessarily say that it was bad, because for the most part, again, the family element, which is what always rocks out with that family when they're in the story, is what really held it for me. Because I think it was also a lot of elements of little brother surpassing big brother, the fact that, the flash fire was one of Endeavor's giant moves that Dabi learned how to basically damn near master, and Shoto showcasing, that's cool and all, but here, let me show you one thing, the big change. If you really look at it, honestly, the mom, Shoto and Dabi's mom, is the big key to all of this thing of how Shoto is able to surpass and how Shoto is able to do what he does, because his mom's love and his mom's side of things is what really pushes him forward. Because despite the fact that Dabi has that flash fire, which when we get a little bit of the backstory of the flash fire and just Endeavor burning down mountains and shit like that, that's very heavy, but the fact that, again, Shoto is able to overcome him is not because of his, father and, mastering his father. I think the big element of this whole thing is that the father's sins, and the father was essentially wrong, and Dabi, despite the fact that he absolutely wants to annihilate his family, I think there's a sick and twisted element, again, self-hatred, of him doing this to prove himself to his father. I would argue that finally get the approval of his father, yo, you always wanted me to be that weapon, and then you casted me out and trained this kid. I'm going to show you not only I can kill him, but then I'm going to also kill you and show you that I was the strongest all along. It's looking for acceptance and looking for that validation from his father that he never got, in a twisted way of murdering them all. And again, in come the key that changes the whole thing. It's that ice side of things. It's the mother side of things, of being able to quail that fire, so to speak. And when he uses the... And yes, I did have to look it up, because holy shit, some of these attack names is just what the hell? What happened to the Kamehameha? Where's that at? Rasengan. But no, we got Icebound, Crash, Cold Flames, Pale Blade. And he was able to use the ice to basically quail down the fires and overcome the flames of Dabi as well, which showcases that despite the fact that Dabi is constantly poking and, taunting Shoto about like, yo, you're not at that level, I'm the big dog and whatnot. No, his flames were hotter than yours, and he cooled you down, and he defeated you. And admittedly, I gotta say that the defeat of Dabi, it didn't necessarily live up to how I expected it. There was elements of it that I really enjoyed. Again, I gotta keep on stressing the family elements, but ultimately, he went down, I don't want to say fairly easily, because he was giving Shoto a run for his money, and the art looked amazing, but I just expected maybe a little bit more. I don't know if I expected maybe some teamwork to take down Dabi. I don't know if I expected maybe something with his father. Exactly, I'm not sure, but it just felt like there should have been a little bit more impact in his, defeat. But also, I like how Horikoshi used that battle and used the defeat of Dabi and used everything that happened there to kind of be a morale boost and also kind of a damper on the villains. It was a big morale boost because it was pretty much like the next chapter too, constantly talking about, wait a minute, Shoto did what? Dabi fell for the heroes and for the allied forces. That is going to push them even further, like, yo, let's freaking go. We doing the damn thing. We got it. If, Shoto did that by himself, took down Dabi, we can do this. We can win, especially considering their morale has been destroyed time and time again, going even back to just not fairly recent, but it feels like fairly recent, the Star and Stripes situation. Like, if Star and Stripes couldn't take out, All for One, we can't, their morale has been in the toilet for a long time. So to see that Shoto started shit off the right way, took out his brother, did what needed to be done, on top of all the fact that, hello, he took down his brother. Like, that was a challenge in and of itself. Ultimately, he did what needed to be done. But going back to the heavy part of that situation, you could equate all of this down to a lot of self-hatred for Dabi, the hatred that he isn't and couldn't measure up to, his brother, measure up to the expectations of his father. And that also trickles down to other avenues. And honestly, again, it's him being a mirror, so to speak, of his father's self-hatred and, insecurities. Also, it is what it is, but, they confirmed that, Dabi's still alive. Yay! Like, all right, well, when we're gonna get the next jailbreak? You know what I'm saying? It's like the Joker jumping out of Arkham Asylum. Like, when is he gonna happen? When is he gonna jump out again? Unless something crazy happens, I don't freaking know. And then on the other side of things, something very important and integral, All for One versus Endeavor, Hawks, and then eventually Jiro and Tokoyami show up, and it's just like this big gallivanting thing. I will say, at first when Jiro and Tokoyami showed up, I was like, why are they here? Like, in particular, Jiro, for the most part. Like, Tokoyami, I could see it. He's trying to reach, his sensei, Hawks, the person that trained them, trying to be like there for the person that rocks with him. So I got that aspect. But then I look at Jiro and I'm like, okay, I like the fact that it is random. It isn't like contrived of like, this one needs to fight that one. Like, so that's kind of cool. And also it added certain elements of like giving more of Class 1A some moments. I didn't really care for certain elements of like, so let me get this straight. And I read that there was like apparently a big fuss within the community about this one, because there's a line where All for One basically showcases that, oh wow, all of the quirks that he stole are, going against him and they're holding him back. And he says, yo, this didn't even happen when Star and Stripe, did that to me. How the hell is this happening now? And I gotta ask, how the fuck is that happening, good sir? Like, it really goes into the shonen trope of friendship and all that stuff. The fact that Jiro is able to come in there and do what all of the others couldn't. Like, there's cool elements, and maybe this could be the reason why, of the fact that they kept aiming at his head. And clearly they say the big weakness of All for One, which I love that we actually have a pointed out weakness, feels like it could have been maybe showcased a little bit or revealed a little bit more, I don't know, grandiose in a way of like that being his weakness. But nevertheless, I'm saying the life support of him, so to speak, is what's keeping him going. We cracked through that, boom, it's over. The fact that when he escaped the prison, he had the freaking damn generators attached to him. There's something wrong with him. That at any given moment he could probably go. It's probably only, not probably, it's definitely only due to all the quirks that he's stolen over time, why this dude is even walking, because right now he's just a sludge monster. Also, very cool that something Horikoshi set up, which I believe that's already been like 5 years ago now in the manga, is coming to fruition, of that whole pairing of Hawks and Endeavor as a team. Like, when you first see it, you're thinking, well, there's no way there could be a team. This is the number 1 hero, the number 2 hero. Hawks has this whole double, triple agent shit going on. Like, there's just no way there would ever be a team. But chapters like the latest ones in the battle against All for One showcases, no, they really became a really awesome duo. You got both of them kind of essentially crippled. They're basically cripping out here, you know what I'm saying? They Loken, where Hawks is with artificial feathers, and Endeavor, he's been weakened, and his eye, his burned face, and all of that stuff. So essentially it's, oh my god, it's an internal crip war, because also All for One is crippled and on life support. Like, jeez. And here's going back to the core central element of this whole battle that I keep telling you guys, the self-hatred. All for One once again starts poking at Endeavor little by little, saying, oh, your heart ain't even in this shit. I can see it right now. You ain't in it. And then when he drops the bombshell of, yo, you never did find Toya's body, did you? The mind games. That's one of the things that, because I've seen a lot of hate coming towards All For One's way of like, yo, he's not creative with the quirks. He's not using them to the full advantage. He's just kind of standard and keeps on punching. And I'll admit that definitely there could be some more done with the creativity of how All For One is fighting. But I love the fact that this dude's biggest weapon is not even all those quirks. It's the mind games. This dude is a genius when it comes to the mind games of disarming his opponent by, oh yeah, that Toya thing, yeah, you know, planting seeds, dog. Like getting this battle ready 20 years ago, you know what I'm saying? Nothing too crazy. Because it's that makes Endeavor start raging and he's able to attack and, you know, hit Endeavor again and again because he uses mind games. So while All For One, the weakness of his character, you could argue, is that he's just not creative with the moves and he could do so much more with them, he is disarming everybody by simply talking and being a slithering snake, so to speak, at the mouth. And that is a pretty damn insane way to do things and also makes for a great villain. Like, yeah, I would love for him to do some crazy combinations and not just punch, but he's talking and kicking ass, like with the words. The pen is mightier than the sword, my lord. And I forget sometimes that All For One is one big comic book nerd gone rogue, so to speak, because he even references like, yo, dog, when, you know, Jiro and Tokoyami show up, oh man, I remember they would use motherfuckers like you to be fodder so that the main villain could show off, which that's basically Horikoshi saying that's why they're on this battlefield. It's like, we gotta get All For One to show off without, you know, killing the two main dudes he's fighting. So let's bring in some fodder. And honestly, I feel like it would have been more impactful, and there's still time for it to happen. The battle ain't completely over yet. If like maybe Jiro will bite the big one. I'm not attached to Jiro. I know there's some Jiro fans out there saying, fuck you, Fornev, how dare you? I'm not a Jiro fan, and nor do I want to see Jiro on this battlefield. I mean, granted, it's probably Horikoshi's final send-off to all of these Class 1A heroes that probably won't be relevant any further, assuming the series goes on past the end point of the My Hero Academia story that's being told, whether Horikoshi pushes it forward, whether they bring in the Vigilantes team to do it, whatever the case may be, this is probably going to be the last times we see a lot of these characters, especially the more no-name ones that they're part of Class 1A, and even I can't tell you a lot of their names. Like half of Class 1A could easily sit down, whether it be we do get a part 2 of My Hero and they're retired, they never became full heroes, or they just gave it up because All For One just showed that, yo, there's different levels to this and y'all not ready for it. So yeah, Tokoyami, I think he'll definitely continue to be a hero. I could see Jiro, especially, she's getting a little banged up here and there, kind of having to sit down, and she did something great because she did something Star and Stripes quirk couldn't do, even though I'm still like, that's a little bit on the BS, my lord. Also, shout outs to Hawks for showing strategy. That was really well done of him, saying, oh, that's the weakness, and continuing to bash at the same spot on the helmet, because get rid of the helmet, he's going to be a lot more weakened. So I rock with that heavy. I love when there's strategy. That gives me, you know, baby Hunter x Hunter vibes. Hunter x Hunter is all on strategy when it comes to the combat. That gave me baby Hunter x Hunter vibes, and that is not a diss by any means. That is a compliment. And once more, we return to the topic at hand of this entire battle when it comes to what has become, and I just got to keep it real, when it comes to My Hero Academia as it stands right now, one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character at this point, is Endeavor. Looking at his character and seeing everything he's gone through, and even at the, you know, peak of battle right now, he is once again beating himself down on the ground, filled with self-hatred. When he starts envisioning the past version of himself before he went down this path, and how he's beating him up, saying, yo, you was always jealous of All Might, you never accomplished your goals, you're a failure, don't try to turn over a new leaf now. It's essentially him grasping at an even bigger battle than he's having right now against All For One within himself. Inner turmoil, inner hatred, looking at himself in the mirror like, what is this? I've never been able to do it. I will never be All Might. I will never be Deku. I will never be a superhuman. At best, I've been basically a mess. And I felt so bad when he went through the self-deprecating act of naming himself Hard Work. It's him beating himself up for all of his blessings. The fact that you're not All Might, the fact that you're not Deku, the fact that you're not a superhuman, and yet you rose to the ranks of where you're at right now, shows that you're awesome regardless. You do not need to be those persons. You are Endeavor. You are the dude that has made mistakes. You've done a lot of messed up things, but you're making up for it. And yes, you can turn over a new leaf. You don't have to keep on beating yourself down. I'd argue that those demons that he's fighting with right now are actually probably helping him and pushing him forward, forward, because he even admits to himself at one given point, never stop cursing your own weakness. It's the only thing you've been living for. And he says, I'm not gonna start, patting myself on the back now. This is where it ends. This is the end. And I'm not even gonna lie, I'm really, really hype about Endeavor right now. And death flags galore for Endeavor, I'll be honest with you. Very scary stuff. But man, somebody that is battling that type of battle while battling an external battle against one of the greatest villains the world has ever seen, the greatest villain the world has ever seen, it's tough. And I guess I'm also just wondering where Horikoshi is planning on taking All For One's character. I wouldn't be surprised if the real All For One dies right here, whether it be that they both die in a blaze of glory, Endeavor versus All For One. But considering the fact that he's already implanted some consciousness at a certain level inside of Shigaraki, this one can kind of die and the All For One mind doesn't necessarily leave, although I highly doubt that he's going to take over Shigaraki's body entirely. Different story, different video. But overall, the My Hero Academia manga, it's been a mixed bag. When it comes to the elements of shonen that you would like, it kind of has felt a little bit stale, so to speak. But when it comes to the inner monologue and the stuff that Horikoshi really wants to write, the inner turmoil, the deconstruction of a character like Endeavor, those are the golden nuggets. Those are the things that are keeping me going, and those are the reasons why I'm still like, yo, I gotta rock with this. We gotta see it through to the end. And honestly, there are some highs in here. It's just the lows are very noticeable, and I think that's partially due to, again, the incredible nature of two of the past arcs of the Big War, My Villain Academia, even the Lady Nagant stuff. The stakes felt real high, but I would throw the argument, that was one kid by himself fighting an assassin and shit. So different circumstances, but very extremely curious what y'all been thinking the last couple months of My Hero Academia. Yay, nay, how do you feel about the battles going on? What did you think about Dabi versus Shoto? How do you feel about Endeavor versus All For One? What do you think about Endeavor's character? Are you on Team Endeavor, or are you still like, nah? And your overall thoughts and expectations for where this shit is gonna go right now. Very, very crazy stuff. We're at what feels like damn near endgame. But that's all I have for this one. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day. Peace in, and yo, Endeavor, I hope you see it through, dog. I hope you get through this inner turmoil, so to speak, because just because you've made mistakes, just because you're not happy with what your life has turned out, it doesn't mean you got to keep on going that way. You can always change things around. You can always make it happen, and I'm hoping the best for the guy, because heavy stuff underneath the shonen aspects that people are really focusing in on. Look at the characterization, the character developments, and that's where it lies, all the gold. Have an awesome one. Oh, you should totally subscribe.
So just go.